पूर्वक्षः हिरण्यकशिपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कालकालये शीलटङ्कालकालये Same. Ito narasimha parato narasimha Ito narasimha parato narasimha Yato yato yami tato narasimha Yato yato yami tato narasimha Baye narasimha hridaye narasimha Bahe narasimha hridaye narasimha Bahe narasimha hridaye narasimha Narasimha Madem Sharanam Prapadi Narasimha Madem Sharanam Prapadi Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tava Kara Kamalava Jaya Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev, Narasimhadev, Jaya Narasimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. सर्वभक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा देव भगवान की जय। भक्तराज श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की, जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna. So now there will be a Bhagavad Gita class here in the temple hall in English. So kindly be seated. अभी यहाँ पे अंग्रेजी में भगवत गीता के ऊपर प्रवचन होगा, तो जिस किसी को भी यहाँ पे सुनना है आप यहाँ पे बैठ सकते हैं। हरे कृष्णा।
Lakshmi. करता
हरे कृष्ण। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। निताय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताय गौर हरि बोल। जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद। कलियुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 62. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामा कामात् क्रोधो विजायते. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Purport. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. So this is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. Hare Krishna. So this is the section of the Gita where Krishna is talking about how a yogi who is practicing serious spiritual life, taking all precautions to control his senses, to control his mind, and practicing the principles, how such a person can get distracted and fall from his position. So the path of yoga, the path of success is not easy. To remain focused on the goal is not easy. And although we may start with good intentions, with good determination, and we may go ahead to a great extent, but challenges and temptations and allurements, they come on the way, and many people get distracted. Few weeks back we were discussing about Vishwamitra Muni, how Vishwamitra was practicing yoga. He wanted to become a great rishi, Brahma Rishi. But then he was distracted. Menaka came, he got distracted, and then later Rambha, another Apsara came, he got distracted. And then some other temptation came, he got distracted. So what he could have achieved in a few years' time, he took several thousand years to achieve success. So that's how it is. Like any other test in our life, if a student has to clear an exam, attain a degree, so initial school years, the tests are small. As he advances from one standard to another to higher grades, the test and exams become harder. And then school gets over, college, then bigger tests, and then graduation, then post-graduation. So as you go higher and higher, the the tests, the severity of the test increase. And finally, um, whatever his goal is, he achieves. Not everyone is able to stay till the end. Some people may drop out after school. Some people may continue till high school, higher education, till graduation, right? Depending on one's capacity, we drop out. So here Krishna is talking about a yogi who is supposed to have a goal, how he or she can get distracted from the goal. So the biggest challenge for a yogi is mind control and sense control. Sense control, to some extent, may be possible. Mind control is even more difficult. So in this two verses, 2.62 and 63, Krishna talks about how a yogi falls from his position. And it doesn't happen suddenly. All of a sudden, you find a yogi giving up the process. Just like a student, he is given many options, right? If he is unable to clear the exam, some help is given, some support is given. Even if he has failed, maybe one more attempt, one more chance, so that somehow he goes ahead, he or she goes ahead and clears. So all of a sudden, no one falls. No one gives up education just because you failed once. Similarly, here also a yogi his fall doesn't happen all of a sudden. So Krishna gives the steps how the fall happens. So how does it begin? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. So he gives a list of eight steps. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And the next verse he says Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha. And then Sammohat Smriti Vibhrama. And the next Smriti Bhramshat Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. So 8 steps. It begins with Dhyayato. ध्यान करना. किसके ऊपर ध्यान करना? ध्यायतो विषयान पुंसः. Vishay in common language, Vishay means subject. But here Krishna is talking about Vishay means sense objects. Some object that can attract us, that can distract us. So many objects we encounter daily. We see so many things, hear so many things, touch so many things. Like our body and mind and senses are coming in touch with so many things as we move around in this world. In our home, in the office, in the roadside, billboard, so many things we come across. Something catches our attention. While going through this world, while interacting with so many objects, one thing catches our attention and we do dhyan. Dhyayatah. Krishna is not saying pashyatah, not just seeing. You may see many things, but we focus our mind on some selected objects. So what happens when you see, when you contemplate on something? So usually contemplation leads to liking that object. I think of something, I focus my attention on that object. Gradually, I start liking that object. That is the next step. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Upajayate. Sangaha means attachment or liking. I like that object. So initially our curiosity is, okay, let me see what it is. I'm just having a look. बहुत सारी चीज़ देख रहा हूँ. Okay, let me just peep in and have a look. I'm not interested. I'm not going in. So once you look in, then, and if it is attractive, then sangasteshu pajayate. I like it. So from let me see it, it becomes I like it. Sangat sanjayate kama. So when there is little attachment towards that object, and if we continue thinking about it, then sangat sanjayate kam. Kam means intense desire to obtain it. I want it. So from I like it, it becomes I want it. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. And then we continue thinking about the object. Then it leads to the next stage. What is that? So kama is obsession. I want it. Kamat krodho vijayate. Krodh we all know, it's anger. So usually if you are obsessed about some object, something, some person, and if you don't get that object, then that calm turns into krodh, anger. Unfulfilled desire leads to anger. If it is fulfilled, there is another problem. That leads to greed. But Krishna is not talking about that here. He is talking about unfulfilled desire. Kamat krodho vijayate. Now it doesn't stop here. Krodhat, if krodh becomes heightened, intense anger leads to sammoha. Sammoha is illusion, bewilderment. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. So when someone is angry, intensely angry, he is confused. We don't realize what is to be done, what is not to be done. If a person is angry, you can't explain logic to him. We tell him cool down first. Settle down, then we'll discuss. When a person is angry, then he can behave anyway. It's highly risky. If two people are fighting in anger, then you have to separate them and then cool them down and then talk. Okay, what happened? What's your need? What's the problem? So krodhat bhavati sammoha. Anger leads to confusion and bewilderment. And later, so this is the fifth stage. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. This is interesting. Smriti vibhrama means loss of memory. Smriti is memory. Vibhrama. You lose your memory. Losing memory doesn't mean I forget all the information and data and the trivia information that I have in my mind. That's not the... You forget my phone numbers and maybe names of people. That's not the loss of memory we are talking about. Smriti vibhrama is you forget what is right and what is wrong. What are the value systems? What principles are right and wrong? That we forget in anger. So one ends up doing something regretful. And then smriti bhramshad buddhi nasho. In that loss of memory, the next stage is buddhi nasho. Loss of intelligence, destruction of intelligence. So in smriti sammoha and smriti bhramsha, you forget what is wrong, what is right and what is wrong. But in Buddhi Nasho, you consider right to be wrong and wrong to be right. Like they say, no? What is that? Vinashakale viparita buddhi. When you are doomed, about to get doomed, then your intelligence acts the opposite way. So knowing what is right and not knowing what is right and wrong is one stage. But to consider right to be wrong and wrong to be right, that's even greater destruction, greater danger. And in such a state, buddhi nashat pranashyati. Pranashyati means that's the end of, that's the final stage of fall down. So there's nothing more to happen now. Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki. So in this way, Krishna gives this description of how a yogi gets lost. He started with all good intention, with all seriousness, and with a great desire to attain success. But somewhere, this happened. So what could be dhyan? Dhyayato vishaya. It all began with dhyan, right? Contemplation on some object. And this object can be different for different people. What could be a distraction for one person may not be distraction at all. Like it is said, the snowball effect. If you go to the Himalayas or such snow-clad mountains, one small ball of snow, it may start rolling from the top of a mountain peak. And at some stage will accumulate more mass and it will grow. And then after a few meters down, it will still grow. Now, by the time it reaches downhill, that small little snowball, mass of snow, may have become a huge, several kilograms weight ball. And if it crashes upon some house or a township or a village, the whole village can get destroyed and several people can get killed. So then where to stop? If someone notices this ball of snow is falling down, which is the best point to stop the snowball? As early as possible. Right? At the top, if you can stop, that is easier. For some reason, अगर छूट गया समझो, वहाँ पे रुक नहीं पाए हम लोग. The next step, वहाँ पे भी नहीं हुआ next step, वहाँ पे भी नहीं हुआ next step. But the greater the delay, more difficult it is to stop. Similarly, these desires are like snowballs. It begins with a small few grams, maybe. And then you develop attachment, then you want it, obsession, and then anger. It's like the size of the ball is increasing. And before you realize, so where is the tipping point? At what stage you lose control? You lose control actually at the last moment. But then, if you want to stop it, then you need much bigger effort to stop at later stages. So therefore, Krishna says, as early as possible, stop the snowball. Ideally, the moment you get a thought, negative thought, that's the right, easiest point where you can stop. But most people ignore the first stage. Because thought, so many thoughts, and it's a pleasurable thought. I like to imagine these pleasures. I like to meditate upon these thoughts. ठीक है, विचार कर रहा हूँ मैं. I'm not acting upon it. We may justify, saying, I'm not acting. And I just watched certain things and I did certain things. And after that, I forget it. It's not going to affect me. That's how we justify. But Krishna, you know, the thought remains, and you are feeding the thought every time, every time you are watching similar things. It's like people behave in violent manner. A terrorist attack or murder or abuse, sexual abuse. These people appear so normal. We may say, "Hey, ये तो मेरा दोस्त था." So normal. I just spoke to him the other day. So nice. And he behaved like this. He could act so violently. He could kill someone. He could abuse someone. We never thought. So it is not visible on the surface. But because a person is contemplating on certain things, watching certain kind of movies, images, videos, that snowball is building. And other people don't come to know. General people don't come to know. We get to know only when the action happens. Mind mein kya chal raha hai? Who knows? So therefore, earlier we stop. Better for ourselves, better for people around us. It is destructive to the individual. It is destructive to people around us. And bigger the size of the ball, bigger destruction it can cause to people around us. So therefore, Krishna tells us, warns us, don't build these negative thoughts. Somewhere we need to stop. So therefore, these thoughts are like wild animals, and we all have an animal inside, wild animal inside. And someday, with the more we keep on feeding these thoughts, that animal one day comes alive. Just like if you go to a zoo and you may see a nice wild tiger sitting there, a lion, and we may do something and show some gestures because we are confident. तो खिला पिला के बैठा है ना ये. If you go to a forest, we don't do that. But यहाँ पे cage के अंदर है, we can take the risk. But suddenly, sometimes, if you provoke that animal too much, then he may shout and roar. Similarly, we have this animal inside, and it may be gentle and kind, calm most of the time. But we keep on feeding these kind of videos and images and thoughts, and the animal wakes up suddenly. But then once it is woken up, then we can't do anything. So that's why oftentimes we find people behaving in such crazy ways. Because the animal has woken up and no one has taken any steps. No one has given them education and awareness about such a thing can happen. Just like suppose we are in a zoo again. In a zoo, you find a lion and tiger inside a cage. Right? And we are outside. The human being is free and the animal is caged. But if you go to safari, then we are caged. The animal is inside. Animal is roaming free. So sometimes the mind is behaving like an animal in a zoo or in a safari. If you are dealing with the mind as an animal in a zoo, then we need to have strong cage of boundaries. Okay, this animal cannot cross these boundaries. इसके अंदर जो करना है कर. Therefore, we need principles, regulative principles. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. We follow these principles. If within this boundary, you do whatever you want. इसके बाहर नहीं. Not this. So the mind needs that kind of boundaries. Clear, well-defined boundaries. Anything beyond this, you have to tell the mind, You are crossing, this is not allowed. Then the mind stays there, just like the animal. But sometimes the mind is like the safari animal. The mind is let loose. The lion is let loose and he can roam freely. And if we have to deal with this kind of mind, then we need a cage. That cage is a cage of strong intelligence. Strong, shastrically guided intelligence. Scripturally guided intelligence. Okay, be aware, this animal is here, hanging around, walking around here. You protect yourself with a cage. You be inside the car, don't jump out of the car, don't put your hand outside the car window. That kind of barricade we need. And if we don't have these barricades, then we are taking a risk. So that's what the Gita and the Shastras are telling us. Don't deal with the mind playfully. Most of the time, the mind may behave your instructions, but it's like an animal, wild animal. Anytime it can create havoc. So modern culture doesn't teach us the value of regulations and mental discipline. We follow discipline. Everyone follows discipline to some extent, but that's for a temporary gain. Like an athlete, he wants to win an Olympic gold. He will follow certain discipline and lifestyle. A student may follow certain disciplines. A working professional may follow discipline. But when it comes to life, when it comes to achieving the goal of life, we really don't care about sticking to a discipline. We feel life is meant to enjoy. And you don't tell me what I should do, what I shouldn't do. This is right, this is wrong. This is all personal, individual. That's what we tend to think. Life can have, human society in general, can have certain principles, should have certain principles. We have a common goal of achieving spiritual perfection. And for those attaining that goal, you need to follow certain disciplinary principles. We don't like to hear that. And we are not taught about that. Our education doesn't teach that. Therefore, society is in chaos. There is so much corruption. Corruption is a sign of greed. Violence, so much violence. Sign of anger. So much abuse. Sexual abuse, child abuse. A sign of lust. Lust, anger, greed. These are three main enemies. Krishna in the Gita, 16th chapter says, Kama krodhas tatha lobhas tasmade tatrayam tyajet. These three are the royal gateways to hell. Lust, anger and greed. Where is our education and culture teaching us to control these emotions? Lust, anger, greed. In fact, society encourages this. Anyone who displays anger, like in movies, if a hero is angry and displaying his anger, that's considered heroic. We glamorize expression of lust, anger and greed. Someone violently behaving, someone chasing after the opposite sex, breaking all principles, shamelessly doing all those things, we glamorize. Right? And greed also. Greed is glamorized as ambition. He's ambitious, goal-oriented, having great achievements, desire to achieve something. But it could be greed. So when these principles are not there, then society will become chaotic. So in this way, Krishna here talks about the need for mental control. Stop at the time of thought, if possible. If not, as early as possible. So there are some statistics of how addictions are ultimately beginning with thought, right? We think of something, it could be alcohol, it could be smoking, it could be drugs, it could be pornography, it could be anything. It all begins with a thought. So alcohol addictions, it says 30% of the adult population in India consumes alcohol. 30% is how much? 3. 160 million people consume alcohol. Now you may say, I am not an addict. बस पार्टी के टाइम थोड़ा पी लेता हूँ. Wedding function and social function. And not because I like it. Because everyone is doing it and I don't want to be an odd man out. I want to be a... I want to मिलजुलना है सबके साथ. Therefore I do a little... I don't get addicted. Which could be true. We may not be an addict. But then not everyone is... everyone stops there. Then it says... 18.8% of men aged 15 and above consume alcohol. 18% of men and 1.3% of women, which is a big difference, men and women. Alcohol consumption is higher in rural areas compared to urban areas. 14.6% of alcohol users are considered to be engaged in hazardous drinking patterns, which is a big number. 22% male alcohol users and 5.8% female alcohol users were dependent on alcohol. That means they were addicted. They are addicted. Age of initiation. When do you get initiated into alcohol? At the age of 19 or 20 in India. And the age is gradually going down. And the health impact. Alcohol use is responsible for 3.3 million deaths worldwide in 2016. Economic impact. 1 to 3% of GDP in India is lost in alcohol. So if this much money can be utilized for some productive purposes, poverty can be eliminated. People usually complain, आप लोग मंदिर में इतना पैसा देते हो, गरीब लोगों को खाना खिलाते क्यों नहीं, कि क्या क्या हो सकता था. But they will never talk about how much money they are spending on bar and alcohol and smoking. तभी गरीब लोगों की याद नहीं आती. The moment you spend money in temple, then people raise question. अरे गरीब. Similarly, when it comes to entertainment, movies, so much money, crores of rupees are spent on IPL, on Bollywood. That time no one remembers Garib people. Suddenly when temples start spending money, suddenly there is an enlightenment. Garib people, bechare. So addictions kill so many people. Similarly, drugs. Several million people lose their lives in drug addiction, smoking. Although the cigarette pack says it causes cancer, it kills, smoking kills, all kinds of warnings are given. But still, the addiction is so strong that the addict cannot give it up. You have to show graphic images of lung getting cancerous and how every smoke you take in, it is destroying your lungs or liver. Such graphic descriptions, still people are unable to give it up. That shows the extent of addiction and extent of slavery to the substance. Sometimes these addictions are compared to time bombs. You place a time bomb somewhere and you set the time, right? 10 minutes and time is ticking. So how do you stop? The moment you realize, you can diffuse it and prevent the explosion. Similarly, addictions are like bombs. One day it will explode. But then we need a process by which we can diffuse the bomb. Therefore, that's where the method of yoga comes in. Gita is known as a book of yoga. Every chapter is titled as a yoga. Dhyana yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Bhakti yoga. So these processes are like you identify the bomb, where it is kept within the mind, and then you switch it off, diffuse it. So when, especially in this age, the yoga of sound, meditating on divine sound is considered a very, very powerful method to deal with the mind. So mind has all this storehouse of negative thoughts, and you expose the mind to sound vibrations. Not ordinary sound vibration, spiritual sound vibrations. Such sound can destroy the chain of negative thoughts that are building up within someone's mind. So it's like a mind is compared to sometimes a software. So you have a computer, the computer hardware, the monitor and the PC and the keyboard and mouse and all. And there's a user who is using the computer. But the user cannot operate the machine if there is no software inside or an operating system inside. Right? The operating system and the software, various applications, they are like the interface between the user and the machine. Right? I cannot see anything on the monitor if there is no software inside. I cannot get anything done through the computer, whether it is a Microsoft Word or Excel or any other thing. I need a software inside. Then I can do calculations and prepare reports and type documents and make presentations. But the software is essential. Now, if the software is corrupt, brand new machine, and some virus is attacked, the user is okay, the hardware is okay, but the software inside is corrupt, then you can't operate the machine. So mind is compared to this software. Oftentimes people confuse mind to be the spirit, the soul. We say when the mind becomes peaceful, we say I'm getting spiritual experience, which is not exactly spiritual. Mind is like getting cool, calm. So mind is like the software, and this software, when it is corrupt, we need to maybe install antivirus software and remove the viruses, clean the machine, registry and all. And then when the software is okay, then the monitor will show proper screen, proper results, and then we can work. So chanting spiritual sound vibrations, hearing spiritual sound vibrations, taking darshan of divine forms of Krishna, these are like powerful antivirus software that can destroy huge amounts of negativity. It can break the chain of vicious negative cycle. And then gradually, if you do it regularly, every day, proper, systematically, then a person can gradually come out of this negative cycle. Because we are not practicing all these methods, and these are nothing new. These methods are coming in our ancient tradition. All the great sages and rishis and all the great devotees have been practicing this. But somehow we got disconnected from this whole process. And now we are in a state of affairs, situation where we are almost like the West. Whatever problem the Western people are facing in terms of addiction and crime, that's now coming into India. In spite of we having all the solutions to deal with the mind, to deal with negative thoughts, we have ignored. Oftentimes Prabhupada says in his purport saying, Indians have the treasure inside, But Indians are looking towards the other direction, towards the West. The wealth is here with us in the form of instructions, in the form of processes, in the form of knowledge of the yoga, in the form of scriptural instructions. But somehow we don't take interest in these things. And we are attracted by the Western glamour. And those people, they take more interest in these things. So, in spite of having this wealth of knowledge, we Indians are suffering with these crimes, with these corruptions, with these problems. But if we can take shelter of these instructions, this wealth of knowledge, then that's the real contribution, Prabhupada used to say, Indians can make to the world. Now we try to compete with the West, with other countries in terms of technology, maybe in terms of other things. Ignoring our real wealth, we try to compete in those areas. But this is our real wealth. The knowledge of the Vedas, in terms of Ayurveda, in terms of yoga, in terms of spiritual knowledge, meditation techniques. This is our real wealth, and this is what we are supposed to export and share with the whole world and do welfare to our own selves, do welfare to the whole world. Janma sarthaka kari kara paropakar. Bharata bhumite hoila manusya janmaja. Lord Chaitanya says this. One who has taken his birth in the land of India, Bharata bhumite, manusya janmajar, who has taken his birth as a human being, janma sarthaka kari. One should perfect his own life, kara paropakar, and do social welfare to the entire world. So in this way, the Gita talks about dealing with negative thoughts. Sometimes the mind is compared to a browser. So just like when you open a browser, Chrome or any other browser, and then you type, say you type T, and it may show Times of India, autofill बोलते हैं ना उसको, autofill. Now you may want to type something else, but it's already showing timesofindia.com or time.com, because earlier we have visited those websites and it is saved in the history, saved in the cookies, and then it prompts you, hey, you have visited this website, go ahead, it's easier now. But then if I don't want to go there, then I have to type the whole text address, URL, and then enter. But if we are not careful, and if we allow, timesofindia.com, although I don't want to go, I end up going there when I want to go somewhere else. Similarly, mind is like that. Mind has auto programs. Whatever I have visited, whatever I have thought before, it will pop up. You want to think something? This is what you have been thinking when you are sitting idle. Take this thought and meditate. But we may say, Arey, I want to think something else. I want to think of Krishna. And mind is popping up something else. So then we have to break that chain. No, then I have to type the entire URL, krishna.com. And then somehow we can focus on Krishna. And similarly, there are pop-ups, right? You clear all the history, you clear all the cookies and everything, and then suddenly some pop-up will come. Then you have to hit that cross and delete. So in this way, mind will behave in all crazy fashions. But Krishna says, we have to be careful. Otherwise, it will lead to step by step, it will lead to fall. And a yogi should be careful about falling and distraction and temptation. So this theme continues in the next verses also until the chapter is over. So I'll stop here if anyone has any question or comment. So we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.